Elon Musk called hydrogen fuel cells fool cells. He said it publicly, repeatedly, and with contempt. In 2013, in 2015, in 2019, every time a journalist asked whether Tesla would ever consider hydrogen, the answer came back the same way. Dismissive, final. Then someone at Tesla quietly filed a hydrogen storage patent, then another one. Between 2018 and 2023, Tesla's engineering teams filed multiple hydrogen-related patents, while their chief executive officer was still mocking the technology at shareholder events. The engineers working on those filings did not do it by accident. Patent teams do not file paperwork on technologies the company has permanently ruled out. That gap between what a company says publicly and what its engineers are actually building quietly is the most important signal in the automotive industry right now. To understand what it means, you have to go back to where the lithium story started falling apart, because the case for hydrogen was not built by hydrogen advocates. It was built by everything that went wrong with the battery revolution that was supposed to make hydrogen irrelevant. If this kind of analysis is what you are looking for, subscribe now and hit the bell. Every week on this channel. The lithium boom had one clean story behind it. Batteries get cheaper every year. Range improves every generation. The charging network expands until filling up an electric car feels as routine as stopping for gas. Every major automaker staked its next decade on that roadmap. Investment banks published projections. Governments committed subsidies. Engineers got hired by the thousands. Then in a single 12-month window, the price of lithium carbonate increased by 480%. That number did not just hurt margins. It broke every cost model the industry had published. Gigafactory expansion plans went under emergency financial review. Long-term supply contracts signed at peak rates locked manufacturers into costs that made certain electric vehicle models unprofitable to build at any competitive price point. The clean story stopped being clean. What makes the collapse significant is not the price swing itself. Commodities swing. What makes it significant is the geography underneath it. The United States controls less than 10% of global lithium refining capacity. China controls approximately 60%. When Beijing restricted exports of a critical battery material in 2024 with 2 weeks' notice, the response from American electric vehicle manufacturers was silence, because there was nothing to say. There was no alternative supply chain ready to activate. Every electric vehicle built in America today contains materials that pass through supply chains the U.S. Department of Defense has formally listed as a national security vulnerability. That is not a fringe concern. It is in the public filings. The engineering world's first response to lithium's problems was sodium. CATL, the world's largest battery manufacturer, announced sodium-ion cells in 2021 and started commercial production in 2023. The chemistry is genuinely compelling. Sodium is over 1,000 times more abundant than lithium in the Earth's crust. The cells charge faster in cold weather. They do not contain cobalt, and they cost dramatically less to produce from raw materials. For mass-market passenger vehicles, sodium-ion solves a real set of problems. But sodium-ion is still a battery. It still stores energy electrochemically. It still takes time to recharge. And it still weighs roughly the same amount per unit of energy stored as its lithium predecessor. For the 93% of American drivers who travel under 100 miles per day and charge at home overnight, that is not a problem. Sodium-ion handles that application well. For a commercial truck driver moving freight from Dallas to Chicago on a tight delivery window, the math breaks differently. And that is where the lithium ceiling meets a wall that no battery chemistry improvement has cleared. A fully loaded battery pack for a Class 8 freight truck weighs approximately 8,000 pounds. Not the truck, not the cargo. The battery alone. Federal weight regulations cap the total vehicle at 80,000 pounds. Every pound the battery adds is a pound of revenue-generating cargo that cannot be loaded. For a shipping company operating on margins that compress below 2%, that trade-off is not an engineering footnote. It is the reason their purchasing directors are attending demonstrations for a technology Elon Musk spent a decade calling foolish. Hyundai's hydrogen fuel cell truck refuels in 8 minutes. It carries the same payload as a diesel truck, with no battery weight penalty. And the only thing coming out of the exhaust is water vapor. Toyota has been right about hydrogen for 20 years. They just had to wait for the rest of the industry to hit the wall before anyone was willing to admit it. Toyota committed to hydrogen fuel cells in the early 2000 years. The Mirai passenger vehicle launched in 2014, at a moment when the automotive press was almost universally framing hydrogen as a distraction from the real future, which everyone agreed was batteries. Those articles aged poorly. Japan's national hydrogen strategy is backed by over $100 billion in government investment through 2030. South Korea committed similar scale. Germany began converting its existing natural gas pipeline network to carry hydrogen. The European Union made hydrogen a core pillar of its industrial climate strategy. These are not fringe bets. They are sovereign economic decisions made by governments with engineering ministries that have been studying energy transitions for longer than Tesla has existed. The pattern across all of them is identical. Batteries handle short-range passenger transport where overnight charging works. Hydrogen handles the applications where energy density requirements make batteries physically impractical, regardless of how much the chemistry improves. Heavy trucks, long-haul shipping, aviation fuel, industrial heat, applications where the question is not how fast you can charge, but whether the vehicle can carry enough energy to complete the job without a weight penalty that kills the business case. Now back to those Tesla patent filings, because the story they tell is more specific than a general interest in future technology. The patents filed between 2018 and 2023 cover hydrogen storage system integration, fuel cell stack architecture, and hybrid configurations combining battery and hydrogen powertrains. These are not theoretical research filings. They are engineering specifications detailed enough to build from. The hiring pattern runs parallel. Engineers with deep fuel cell experience from Toyota, Hyundai, and specialized hydrogen startups moved into Tesla's powertrain division during that same window. Engineering conference presenter lists from 2021 to 2024 document the movement publicly. The most direct pressure point is the Semi. Tesla built the Semi around a 900 kilowatt-hour battery pack that costs an estimated $150,000 per vehicle to produce. It is an engineering achievement by any measure. It is also arriving into a commercial freight market where Hyundai's hydrogen truck is already making the 8-minute refuel versus 30-minute charge comparison in front of every fleet manager in the country. Fleet managers do not make decisions based on which technology has better press coverage. They make decisions based on UP time, payload capacity, and total operating cost over a 10-year ownership cycle. On 2 of those 3 measures, hydrogen has a structural advantage that battery improvements cannot close without changing the fundamental physics of electrochemical energy storage. The patents say Tesla's engineers understood this before the Semi launched. The public statement said something different. The honest case against hydrogen deserves the same attention as the case for it. Because this technology has a credibility problem it earned through years of timelines that slipped. The United States has 59 public hydrogen fueling stations. Almost all of them are in California. The electric vehicle charging network has 192,000 locations nationally. That gap is real, and it does not close quickly. Hydrogen stations require specialized high-pressure equipment and trained technicians. The capital cost per station is substantial. Scaling from 59 locations to national coverage is a decade-long project under optimistic assumptions. The environmental case depends entirely on where the hydrogen comes from. 95% of hydrogen produced globally today comes from natural gas. That process releases carbon dioxide. A vehicle running on that hydrogen is cleaner than gasoline, but it is not clean. The zero-emission story only holds if the hydrogen was produced using renewable electricity. and that category currently represents less than 1% of global hydrogen production. Clean hydrogen at scale remains rare today. The technology to produce clean hydrogen at scale exists. Electrolyzer costs have been falling rapidly, but the timeline from current production levels to the scale required to power a meaningful portion of the commercial vehicle fleet runs 15 to 20 years under realistic projections, not 5. This is about production capacity, factories, and supply chains as much as it is about technology. The passenger vehicle case is genuinely weaker than the commercial case. For someone who charges at home overnight, the hydrogen refueling advantage of 5 minutes versus 30 minutes is largely irrelevant. Charging happens while they sleep. The infrastructure investment required to bring hydrogen to the residential driving experience would need to compete against a charging network that already exists and is expanding. The technology does not beat batteries in every application. The honest version of this story acknowledges where hydrogen makes sense and where it does not. The market structure that emerges from the evidence is not a single winner. Lithium-ion and sodium-ion batteries will dominate personal passenger vehicles. The charging infrastructure is deployed. Consumer behavior adapts to overnight charging without friction for the overwhelming majority of daily drivers. The chemistry keeps improving. The supply chain diversification away from China is slow but progressing. Hydrogen captures commercial transport. The physics of energy density and the economics of payload capacity make the outcome in heavy freight increasingly clear. The timeline is longer than hydrogen advocates have historically projected, but the direction has not changed. The open question is where Tesla ends up in that segmented future. The public position is batteries only. The patent record suggests the engineering teams are not bound by the public position. The semi's competitive exposure to hydrogen in commercial freight is visible and growing. By the time Tesla's next major platform decision becomes public, the market will have already moved far enough to make the choice obvious. Toyota waited 20 years to be right. The question is whether Tesla is willing to admit it took 20 years to agree, or whether it announces a hydrogen program on its own terms and calls it a breakthrough. Either way, the technology arriving in the freight lanes of American highways is not what the industry's public statements predicted 3 years ago. The next chapter of the energy transition is being written in patent filings and engineering hires, not in press releases. Subscribe now so you get the follow-up when the production numbers start confirming what the filings already suggest.